Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This is Dudley Reynolds, President of TESOL International Association, and we're now presenting to you a re-recording of a virtual town hall that was originally held on the 14th of December with intersection leaders of the association. There was a technical glitch in the first part of that recording, which is why I'm redoing this introduction here. As I said, I am currently the president of TESOL International Association, and therefore it's my job to share with you news and advancements that are happening within the association. The focus of this town hall today is a proposal that has been made for changes to what we're calling our knowledge-based member communities. In the original town hall, we did have a protocol, and you'll realize that most of the recording you'll hear me talking. We ask other participants to mute their microphones. We did encourage them, however, to enter any questions or comments that they might have in the chat box for the recording, and that the transcript of that chat is available for download along with this recording. Please note also that there was time for questions, and you'll find an extensive question and answer period at the end of the recording. The agenda and the participants in the town hall, in addition to current IS leaders, were members of the executive committee, President-elect Esther DeYoung, past President Andy Curtis, and a number of board members. I wanted to single out and to acknowledge the work of a special working group of the board that has been responsible for the proposal that we're sharing today. That group was Aya Matsuda, Deborah Healy, Deborah Kusan, and also our staff partner, Sarah Saar. And they really have put in a lot of effort and work to bring this proposal together and gone through a number of revisions after discussions with the board. And we all owe them a huge thank you for the work that they put in. In addition to the members of the board and the IS leaders, Dr. Rosa Aronson, TESOL Executive Director, and John Segota, Associate Director, were on the call along with Sarah Saar and Michelle Kim, who worked closely with our intersections. And finally, we had members of the IS task force that was struck during 2015-2016 and was instrumental in presenting a report that has then led to this proposal. And I want to again thank all of them for their hard work towards this goal. The agenda for the town hall began with a background to the proposal, and that's what I'm re-recording today. Then we switched after the background to actually stepping through the proposal itself, discussing first the functions and principles that are common to all of our knowledge-based member communities. And then we segued into looking at the specific structures that are being proposed as part of this proposal. And then the end of the town hall focused on what would be what would follow this this meeting, our next steps, and also, as I indicated, the question and answer period. The proposal that we have shared initially with IS leaders, and then following this town hall, we'll be sharing with our membership as a whole, is a proposal that we're referring to as a knowledge-based member community proposal. This, the original impetus for this proposal started with our governance review task force that was struck several years ago, and which has led us to really look at all of the entities of the association, our standing committees, which we have already transitioned into a mixture of governing committees and professional councils. It encouraged us to look at even the structure of our own board, how we operated, and then additionally at the relationship that we have with affiliate associations around the world. There has been a separate proposal for addressing the affiliate relationship, which has already been shared at a town hall held on December 7th and will be shortly shared with the membership as a whole. The Governance Review Task Force, when that process was started, part of the charge to that group was that we wanted to think about what the association should be as it entered its second half century. How could it foster a culture of knowledge, trust, and most importantly, nimbleness within the association? We wanted to make sure that we weren't just simply continuing to do the same things because that's what we'd always been doing. We also wanted to make sure that all of the work that our volunteer leaders are putting in was high impact work which truly added to the value or added value to the association. That all of the time and effort that people are putting in could always be linked back to our mission and vision, and was going, in a sense, in the direction that we believe that it should be, that it was meaningful. There are two findings that I think from that Governance Review Task Force that are particularly important as background to the knowledge-based member community proposal. The first finding was that as a whole, the association had developed an organizational culture that was much more focused on structure and process rather than on strategy and outcome. So in a sense, we were really focused on, okay, these are the things we should do, making sure that we do the same things that we've done year after year, as opposed to thinking about what should we be doing and then how is the best way to accomplish that, that vision, if you will. The second finding that came out of the Governance Review Task Force was that we were an association that was very, very focused around the annual convention. And when we think back to the era before internet, before technology was such a mediator of communication, it's natural to understand how we developed as an association that had a real focus on the convention. But technology means that that no longer has to be the case. And so one of the charges or findings from the Governance Review Task Force was that we needed to really begin to think about how we could be a year-round association. As I've already said, the association took those findings from the Governance Review Task Force and then began looking at different entities sort of one by one. And the final part of this process is to look at both our relation with our affiliates and also the work of our member communities, in particular our interest sections and our more informal communities that are known as forums. And to this end, a task force was struck in 2015 to really focus on our interest sections. Their report was delivered in Baltimore at the Baltimore Convention and posted online subsequent to that convention. A town hall was held about it last summer in addition. And there were several very important findings from that group. One of the first findings was that they felt that the current model, which was very much, here's what an intersection should be, here are the things that an intersection should do, in a sense was a one-size-fits-all model, wasn't really working, and that we needed to consider perhaps what they referred to as a tiered model, something that would have different levels of member communities. They also were very concerned with how we developed the leaders for our intersections, how we, in a sense, empowered them to lead. And at the same time, they pointed out that the much of the workload that the intersection leaders are currently tasked with, and I really phrase it intentionally that way, that they're sort of given a list of responsibilities, that much of this made it feel as if being an IS leader was not mission-driven, that it wasn't about enacting the vision either for the intersection or for the association as a whole, and that this was something which needed to change. And finally, both the Governance Review Task Force and the IS Task Force underscored again and again that we needed to pay attention to the communication pathways that exist within the association. We needed to make sure that people at all levels within the association know what they need to know, that information gets to them quickly, it gets to them efficiently, and at the same time that they have the ability to communicate back with both the leadership of the association, but also other entities within the association. So we need to really think through this process as a whole. And so as you see here on the slide before you, as sort of a summary of these two task forces, we have, and these are points that have been very much in the minds of the board of directors as they have formulated this current proposal. The first is that we needed to step back from our current model and think very clearly about what is the purpose of having member communities. Why should we have them? What should they be trying to achieve with respect to the vision and mission of the association? Related to that is what their role is in the governance of the association. I want to be very clear about what we mean by governance. At one level, governance is the process whereby a group, in this case an professional association, makes decisions. The bylaws of our association make it very clear that the responsibility for making decisions is entrusted to the board of directors. The board of directors are elected to represent the association as a whole. They do not represent individual entities. And they're therefore tasked with having that overall or broad perspective. At the same time, any responsible board of directors recognizes the need for input from various constituencies. while they don't represent any individual constituency, they need to know what individual constituencies or groups within the association feel is important. They need to have ways in particular to get in touch with volunteer leaders of the association. And so that's one of the things that's been very much in our mind. We also need to be clear about what our model is for how individual groups, such as intersections, should govern themselves. What is their internal governance structure? And that needs to be clear. We, again, as I've already said, need to pay a lot of attention to cultivating and empowering our leaders. We are a volunteer member association, and we need to, for the future well-being of the association, we really need to think about our leaders. And we need to make sure that what we ask of them is meaningful and purposeful. Thirdly, and I think this is something that comes through very much in the proposal, is we recognize and acknowledge that the intersections have been very focused on activities related to the convention. Our old standing rules spelled out all of the different meetings that they would have to do at the convention, various responsibilities for them, their responsibilities with respect to both the adjudicated portion of the convention program and the non-adjudicated. For these groups to be true member communities accessible to all of our members, not just those who can attend the convention, we need to figure out a way to change that. We need to figure out how to empower them and how to encourage them to think of themselves as year-round groups. And finally, the communication pathways. We need to make sure that we know how to get word out to our member communities and how the member communities can easily get messages to both TESOL staff, but also the board of directors directly. So these are the points that we've taken from the work that's been done thus far, and which have fed into the proposal that is being shared today. And I want to underscore that this is a proposal. It is a idea about how we can see the association in the future. It's a starting point for discussion. The proposal does not include, at this point, a timeline for how we get from where we are to what we might be. It's really focusing simply on what we might be, and with the belief that we need to reach consensus on that goal first, and then we can talk through how we get there. And with that, I will switch you back to the original recording where we discussed the proposal in detail. Thank you.